G'day viewers, I got my Mishto 1500 watt inverter set up. I found some deep cycle batteries on it for a good price. Cheapest place I could buy was Repco. Couldn't believe it. Some people they rip every poor cunt off, what it normally stands for, depending on the person, but for me that wasn't true. I got both these batteries for a damn good price. Whoops. I was looking to buy a 215 amp hour Exide battery from Melbourne. SLA, $1,200 battery. I could have got it for about $600 delivered from Melbourne here. They're a year old UPS system from a big telephone exchange. I thought, well, I'll look locally, and I say these batteries are on special. I became a VIP club member right here, and I got a good discount, and I bought two of them, and I got a further discount. So instead of buying one of those Exide batteries for the price, I got two of these too for much less than the price what I got that big Exide battery shipped to me for. So I'm pretty happy with that. 112 amp hour. These are probably better than the AGM in a way, but AGM would last a bit longer, but they're too expensive. Basically one of these little SLA batteries, but a large version of them. You know, when they dry out, they're dried out. These ones here, you can sort of maintain them, which is, I like. They're a really good battery, these ones. These are Australian made, Century Oasa. I just got the CTEC on them just to give it a first initial recharge. That was 12.6, and that was about 500 coil cranking amp at 5 milliohm. That one was 12.7 at 800 coil cranking amp at 3.8 milliohm ESR. So before I initially put them into service, I want to give them a good charge. Don't know how long they've been sitting in the store for, but either way, they're not that old. 14.3 volt, and I've ran a heater off this thing. Ran it for about roughly 5 minutes, and the battery's got to about 11.6 volts. I didn't have this charger on them. I just put them straight on, hooked the solar panel up for a minute or two, then I chucked the heater on. So after a good charge, these should be right. But I ran that little halogen heater nicely. I want to probably neaten these wires up. Run that wire here down this side of it maybe. Just neaten it all up a bit. Now it's not recommended. I'm not going to drain these things below 10 volts, so it should be okay. But if I hook up this battery and that battery alongside those two batteries, use them to run fridges and stuff, and other small household appliances off the grid, I should be okay. That one there is a 95 amp hour, that one's 75 amp hour. Designed for cranking, but I'll have a quick Google. I wonder if you can use them alongside deep cycles, providing I don't flatten them below 10 volts all the time. These should be okay. Now I might consider hooking this inverter up on the terminal posts, as these little ones are designed for accessories, not for cranking sort of currents to crank your car with, because these do burn off. The head of the bolt will melt and burn out and melt out of that, so I'll pull 100 amps out of those for any extended period of time. It's not really recommended. I want to hook these up. So it's 102 amp hours, that's 204 amp hours there for a good price, which I'm happy with. A lot of people buy these these over AGMs if you want a bit of a budget, and they actually get the same results than buying AGM. So what I'm going to use these for, to be perfect. Eventually I'm going to I got that control cabinet I bought ages ago. I want to pour this inside that control cabinet to keep it all dust and safe, out of the dust and moisture. It doesn't get wet here, which is good. The sun kind of blasts this way though, so when the summertime, I'll have to figure out how I'm going to cool it. The cooling and the fans on these are pretty adequate, so I might consider getting the breaker some stage. Chuck a breaker on this lead here. Get a 100 amp circuit breaker or something, just in case this fails. There is a fuse that's inside this thing. There's a 100 amp fuse inside. It is protected, but I guess it couldn't be a little too overprotective. I found some of these short cables too, nice and short, which is what you want for high current stuff. They're the same things at Autobarn. These are over $300 each. Super cheap. They were over $300 each as well for the same brand, but their brand, on a Century or Super Cheap Autos brand. But these Repco batteries are pretty much our Century batteries, hence Yuasa, made in Australia. Just got Repco branding on them. 1 year warranty. I'm pretty happy with that. These will be great for off-grid stuff. Little appliances, this will run for ages. What I'm eventually going to do, as well as once I've established how well this is going to go, doesn't get too hot or too dusty, I'll make a cabinet and just run a cord up along here in the shed, and I'll set up another electricity meter. Maybe I'll paint the terminal cover green or something. That's my off-grid meter, and I'll get one of the other ones, dig it out of storage, or one I've got reset to 0. I'll reset another meter to 0 and use it as a green off-grid meter. Then I've got to calculate and roughly how much kilowatt hours per charge out of those batteries. I've got to work with that yet. Normally the DIY, the power wallers, people that go off the grid do all that sort of thing. There is a formula, I think you can do a mathematical formula to calculate it. You got to take that amp hours and yeah, you got to go from there and calculate roughly how much kilowatt hour storage. I've got to work with that yet. And then you use it against my other meter, and if it'll be enough anyway. Be at least 4, maybe 5 kilowatt hours of storage in those batteries, but that's pulling that. If I pulled that amount of power overnight, 5 kilowatt hours, those batteries will be flat before the sun goes up. But for what I'm going to use it for, especially these panels, those batteries shouldn't go flat all that often at all. I want to plug this charger in the inverter, eh? Let's get some free energy going. If only. That thing pulls more current than that can put back in the batteries. It'd be cool though. It'd be nice and cool. But no, that's not true. Just never going to happen. It's not possible. So I have a meter, yeah. Meter here. Things that I got in here, low current stuff, lighting, radios, PESA pillars, soldering iron, that power supply, my UPS, that will all be off the grid. And that inverter will just happily sit there 24/7 running those things. The fan I can run, and that heater I can run. If it's a cool day, I can run it for maybe, I've got to calculate this, but I'm guessing I'll probably run it for half an hour. It'll last for half an hour before the battery gets too low. In the summertime it's different, but I'm using fans. Not going to worry me. I ran that motor before, and that ran pretty well. To run that motor on AC, it pulled about 65 amps from the battery bank. Roughly, I didn't. It doesn't actually, because it's an inverter, it soft starts things, which is a really cool, neat concept. My air compressor pulls roughly 6-7 amps. That's obviously more than 1500 watts, but that's a 3 kilowatt surge inverter. I might do it, run my air compressor, but I don't know how long for. Surge, basically 3 kilowatt surge, I won't deliver that 3 kilowatts over a period of time, maybe 10 seconds max. Not for 5 minutes or so to run that off the grid. I'll need a big inverter and much more batteries to do that, and more of those solar panels. Batteries ticked, that tick. Next thing on the list, the last thing, 2 more of these panels, and that will keep up with my demands. I'm not too worried about that. There's a, I've got to get rid of that weed, get some inefficiencies, that bucket too. I'm not too worried about those little cracks on the panels, they're fine. I'm losing what? 0.2%, if that, of my output. It's hardly noticeable. Wouldn't worry about that little burn there. Hasn't gotten any worse since I bought these. Yeah, not much to worry about. I'm not losing much input at all. I'm not even seeing an arc or anything in there, so that's fine. That's nothing to worry about. I just keep I keep an eye on my local scrapyard and I just buy spares. I can get them cheap enough. which is good. If I can get more like this at my local recycling centre gets more like this more often, cheap, I just buy more. But yeah, for this system here, that inverter can handle 4 of those max in parallel, and that's 16 amps at 36 volts going into that to charge the batteries. That's plenty of power. I might even modify my design, have another oscillator here at the inverter, turn that off as a so I can service your inverter. Always have your oscillators first before you make your connections or your solar, because this thing when the sun's peak will arc out and cause a fire. So always just make sure those connections are good. I'm actually going to make up some sort of a bracket for this inverter, maybe a stand on that wall there, set it all up nice and neat, and have some strain relief on those cables. I ain't got much to play with on those these cables at the back here. There's not much there I can do, but maybe I'll move it under here. But keep in mind, you got flammable hydrogen, that's explosive gases being produced, and if there's a spark or somehow, kaboom! So that's something you've got to be aware of. You don't get that much of AGM batteries, they're good for that. But theirs are okay, they're vented, they're fine there like that. They get a bit dusty, but I'll hose them down every now and then. Write the date down, 7th 2019. Give them a good initial charge there. It's obviously in weak condition. It's desulfating the batteries. I'm desulfating brand new deep cycle batteries. So it's probably about 2 or 3 months worth of sulfation since I was manufactured and left the factory to clean off the plates. It's not really anything to worry about. That would just give me a really good starting point. That's pretty well. I'm happy with that. Once that's all nice and organised, I'm going to run a cord from there. And all my stuff in here that's on 24/7, like the pest repellers, the time switch, I left that on all the time. Yep, still the right time. That's all going to stay on indefinitely. I'm going to use this for heavier loading stuff. Maybe obviously my air compressor, welders. Yeah, within the limits of that extension cord, pretty much. Whatever was within the limits of that extension cord, I'll run off the grid. On the grid, I should say. Anything that's small, fixing radios for people, they'll run off the grid. And I have a little breaker panel set up. Some small breakers on it, which I'm going to use for that purpose. Hook up some breakers. That'll do. A little 10 amp. Or for an RCD might work off the, or should work off the grid, depending on how my switchboard to that's going to be wired up. I'll have to wire it a certain way. I'll just I don't know. I think Bunnings sell earth rods that are used for building earth rods. So I'm whack an earth rod in the ground, run a cable up, hook it up to the earth on this. So I got a mains earth. I was going to lug it and text cord it to here. Now, this is earthed, but don't rely on that. That's not up to standard. I want to do it properly up to standard and just run a proper earth stake in the ground and a cable to it, like in a house, in a building, a mains earth. So always good to be safe. So I'll be quite happy with that. Let's unplug my UPS. Putting a bit of current there, but if the battery is flat, it'll pull about 3.5 amp. That's if the battery's flat, but it's not. So it's probably just sitting there, trickle charging it, maybe 0.5 amp max. But that'll run off the grid anyway. Same with this light, that's all going to be off grid. Floorways will be okay, they'll be right off the grid. They'll pull a bit of excess power, more than I would need to, but if I kept the existing batten holders, the fittings, wait for a special at Bunnings and just chuck some LEDs in those batten holders, Probably even less power. That's the one I keep. I probably will keep those old fluoros. They're kind of handy. I'll wait for the specials that come on someone down the track if I'm worried about my batteries being drained, but the amount of times I use these lights, it's not going to worry me anyway. Fluoros will be fine running off this. It's not going to pull that much power. As I said, I'm not going to be leaving them on 24/7, so I'm not worried. I still haven't worked this out yet, but I'll play with that later. I might move it and just make that an off-grid thing instead. Breaker's a bit overkill, but that's alright. I'll work it out. It's work in progress. But the bulk of my system's done. Anyway, waffle. Thanks for watching. G'day viewers, well, I bought a 5-pack of these Type 3 cassettes. Pretty good price too, from a local buyer too. 4 of them are still in the wrapper. This is sort of half unwrapped but looked after. There's all 5 they got, by the way. A Type 3, you just don't see much of these at all. Hi-Fi Ferrochrome, ICM Switzerland, the company, the brand. And that, new old stock. You can see it's chrome, but on the inside, the other side of the tape, it's actually a brown. Record it as a Type 1, but it will have the response and playback of a Type 2 tape. That's basically how these tapes worked. Nice. That is quality. Faso permanent stickers. Ferrochrome bias, Type 3, equalisation 70 microseconds. ICM Switzerland. That's quality stuff, new old stock. I'm not going to open the rest, the other 4 are going to stay new and preserved. I'm only going to use this one. The only boombox I've got, or any tape recorder I've actually got that supports chrome tape, ferrochrome, is that Sanyo boombox. Has ferrochrome setting on it. Ferrochrome. The only one I've ever got that's got that on it. Nothing else has it. I could record on this. You just record it normally and it will play back with really good response. Okay, ultra rare Type 3 tape. And even harder to find boombox that actually has a ferrochrome setting on it. Ferrochrome Hi-Fi. Look at that printing. Looks 3D. That is cool. Obviously blank. Reroute the tape. Look at that. Since this has a phono input, I'm actually going to hook up a 12-volt power supply to my little Pi turntable and record some vinyl on that tape, some records. This has got the phono input. All I gotta do is power this up off a wall wart, just make up a wall wart adapter that this can plug into. I take 12 volts into there, and that will plug in the boombox, and I can use that turntable on this boombox. Or if I really want, make up run off a little 12 volt battery, make this whole thing totally portable. That's one way to do it, or just plug it in the AC power, run it off my inverter. It'll still work alright. I've ran the valve radios off my inverter too just before. There's a bit of excess noise, but it's not much to worry about compared to what's coming into the grid. I think because the inverter might need to be grounded and stuff and shielded. I might actually try experimenting running some the AC cord and make up a little terminal box, have it active and neutral coming through separate wires, and wrap them through some ferrite rings to see if that cleans up the AM signal for me. That might be something worth trying actually when I'm running appliances like that off the grid. Cut the noise level down. I've also ran me 3-phase high pressure water pump of my VFD. That ran nicely off my inverter. I got about 100% fully loaded with just a water pump and water. It poured about 60 amps from the batteries. Isn't too bad. Should get less than an hour of runtime out of that. I've got to calculate it though, as I said. I might be overestimating my figure. But if I get a decent enough runtime, I think an electric car or electric go-kart of some description is in mind. You don't have to run a VFD directly off a bunch of batteries for high voltage DC. Just get a heap of deep cycles and run it off an inverter to plug the VFD into. Just, if you really want to get technical, just get a heap of lithium-ion titanate batteries, live PO4 batteries to cut down on the weight to make up for it, and just use a heap of those to beef up the amp hours to make up for all the losses. Anyway, just a suggestion. Anyway, that'll be enough for now. Thanks for watching.